4th graders, this is Mrs. Hochstetler, and this is the demo video where I'm going to show you how to make a clay sugar skull sculpture. So I hope you're excited. I'm excited. So first we're going to take a chunk of clay. Okay, and what do we do to prepare this clay? We wedge it to get any air bubbles out. So you're going to push and turn. Push, turn. You want to do this about 8 to 10 times. Push and turn. This gets all those air bubbles out so our clay doesn't explode in the kiln. Alright, my clay looks pretty well wedged. Now I'm going to roll it into a sphere. So I'm going to roll it on the table. Some people like to roll it. Some people like to pat their clay or just mold it with their hands, but try to make a sphere. This looks pretty good, doesn't have to be perfect. Now you're going to use your handy dandy thumb. You're going to push your thumb into your clay and you're going to make a pinch pot. You may have remembered making these in kindergarten. So I know it's been a while, but you pinch and turn, pinch and turn, pinch and turn. And I'm slowly making my way up, 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 up. You can use both of your thumbs. If you see any cracks, just push them right back together and smooth them out with your fingers. Okay, I don't want to pinch it like this. See how that's way too thin? That's going to fall apart. Okay? You're pinching and turning, but you're not pinching too much. If it gets skinnier than your pinky, it can become more fragile. So just be careful of that, okay? Alright, looks like I've got a nice big pinch pot. I'm going to now test and see how thick some of it is. That part looks a little thicker than this, so I need to pinch that area a little bit more. And just feel around and see if there's any areas that need to be pinched a little bit more. Okay? Now we're going to flip it over and we're going to form this into our skull shape. Right now it looks too round, so I'm going to pinch it a little bit on these sides. There we go. And you can press it down, move it however you need to, boys and girls. That looks more like a skull shape. Now comes my favorite part. We get to decorate. So, I'm going to use, just a regular old pencil, and I'm going to poke the eyes for my skull. So I'm going to poke it in, poke it in. That looks good. And now, watch what happens when I twirl it and get bigger and bigger. See? Bigger and bigger and bigger. There we go. And I can flip it over. See how there's those chunks? We're just going to smooth those into the sides. Okay. Here we go. Now remember, it's really important that you make sure you're not touching the clay too much when you do this part. Clay does not like to be touched. The more you touch the clay, the more it's going to dry out and crumble into pieces. So make sure you're not over touching the clay. You can use things like paintbrushes or scoring tools to make different designs. So maybe I'm going to make some lines in my skull just to jazz it up a little bit. There we go. That's kind of fun. And let's say I don't like those designs. Maybe I want to do something else. You can usually smooth your clay back out a little bit. Just kind of fuss a little bit. Remember, don't touch it too much though or it dries out. Get those scraps out of here. Maybe on this side I'm going to use the end of a paintbrush and do some dots instead. And you will be able to add designs later on to this because we will be glazing them. Otherwise they'd be all white. We want them to be a little bit more fun. Let's see, some people like to add where the nose would be. I'm going to add some lines and then I'm going to roll my pencil. Roll my pencil. Here we go. Maybe I'm going to add where the teeth would be of my skull. Remember, we've got lots of tools in the art room that you can use to add designs to your skull. And don't forget the sides. A lot of people forget to add designs to the sides. You do all this work on the front and then there's nothing. We want to make sure our entire sculpture is detailed. Let's see. And as the video before this showed you about Day of the Dead is all about honoring those who have passed before. So if you want to, you can dedicate this skull to somebody special. Maybe to dedicate this one to somebody special. My grandma passed away and her name was Rosemary, so I want to make a rose to add to this to honor her. So I'm going to grab a little bit more clay, put my skull off to the side. Remember, whenever you get new clay, you need to wedge it. Wedge that clay, push and turn. Alright, so I've wedged my clay. Now I want to make a rose, or I've seen some people make hats for their sugar skulls, or anything you can think of. Let's get creative with this. I want to make a rose, so first I'm going to make some petals. I'm going to roll them out. I'm going to roll out some spheres. There we go. Now I'm going to flatten these with my finger. Make sure when you're doing this, if you choose to do it, you're not smushing them too much on the table or your clay is going to stick. We don't want that to happen. And you're stuck cleaning up a whole table. I'm going to pick these up, flatten them a little more in my hand. Don't worry if they're not perfect anymore. Remember, flowers are not perfect. The petals have tears in them, they're a little wiggly, so it's okay. Don't worry if it's not perfect. There we go. And now I'm going to form the flowers. I'm going to roll this one to like the center petal of my flower. Then I'm going to take these, wrap them around it, and build the flower. See how that's starting to come together? Let's add another petal over here. Remember, one of our big words is to balance things out, so it's not all on one side. Let's see, I think I need one more over here just to balance it out a little bit. There we go. That looks like a flower. A rose for Rosemary. Now you can see that it got a little bit tall, so I'm actually going to cut part of this off so I can attach it to my sugar skull. I'm gonna, still a little bit too much, so I'm gonna cut some more clay off. Here we go. Make sure those petals are still balanced out. Alright, I'm gonna add it onto my skull. I'm gonna stick it on, smooth it in. Make sure it's all attached to the clay. There we go. Oh, looks like my eye's drooping a little bit. Better get that pencil. There we go. That's better. At the very end, you need to put your initials into your project so we know whose is whose. You're going to take a pencil and inside put the first letter of your first name and then the first letter of your last name. So I have K-H for Kaylee Hochstetler. Alright, Make sure that you do it clearly. We don't want it to be a mess. If it's a mess, nobody's going to be able to read it and you won't know which sugar skull is yours. Remember to bring your iPad to class when we make our sugar skulls, just in case you need to re-watch this video, in case you forget some steps. Don't worry, it's no big deal if you need to re-watch a few steps in the video. Alrighty, see you in class to make those sugar skulls. Bye, 4th graders!